Hello. I am beyond grateful and excited to be here in this room, on this stage, with these brilliant women. I would like to start this conversation with kind of stating the obvious. Millennials and Gen Z, with every year, they get more and more represented and present in the workforce globally. I mean, duh. Research says that by 2025, which is just around the corner, we will have 75% of global workforce constituted of millennials, and that only them. But despite all of that, we still have a lot of barriers and obstacles in gaining leadership positions. We are all here on this stage, millennial and Gen Z leaders. And I would like to ask the audience, the conversationists in this room, how many more of us do we have here? Make yourself visible, raise your hands. I don't know, be loud. Yay! Yay, let's celebrate ourselves because we are the future. But guess what? We are not going just to sit around idly waiting for it to happen. We are making it happen now. So with that, I'm turning first to Janla, who has an amazing background and very relevant to this conversation. And I want to ask you, why, in your opinion, do we need young female leadership now? Why can't we just wait until everyone else retires, right? And what are the main obstacles that we are facing still as young women on our journeys to leadership?
Well, thank you, Marina, for the question. And I appreciate the forum for having us participate in this conversation as it relates to millennials and Gen Zs and what we have to say about how things are going. And so a little bit of background, I have the pleasure and the privilege of serving in the House of Representatives as a staffer, and that is the only professional experience I have. That is the only place I have ever worked. I've worked for 3 different members of Congress, and I am also honored to be the vice president of the Congressional Black Associates, which is a staff association on Capitol Hill that uplifts Black staffers. And I think with that experience and having so many interactions with the next generation of leaders and with young people, there are 3 obstacles that I have observed but also have experienced myself. I think ageism is one of them. It's a huge obstacle that we as young women are facing. Perfectionism, and also imposter syndrome. And I think as it relates to ageism, we struggle so much to be able to create a space where we feel like we are valued. As young people, we are not sure that our opinions really matter because sometimes the people above us tell us, well, you're too young, and maybe you don't have enough experience. And one time, in a previous office of mine, I advocated for myself to be promoted. And I was told, I was 22 at the time, I'm 24 now, and I was told at my young age of 22, I should just be grateful that I was allowed to carry a legislative portfolio and that maybe I shouldn't ask for too much. And for me, that kind of folded into a little bit of imposter syndrome and thinking, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Maybe this is not a place where my opinions are valued. Maybe I don't have enough experience to really do this work. And I have the pleasure of serving a member on the House Financial Services Committee, where I am actually the only Black woman Financial Services Committee staffer on the Democratic side. And there are many times where I take meetings on behalf of my member and people say, do you know this subject material? Are you sure that you understand this? Or I'm not really sure if you know about this or if you understand this rule or regulation. And sometimes it creates some imposter syndrome, and it's like, am I supposed to be here? Am I qualified enough? Do I have enough experience? And I think one of the things that I loved on Vice President Harris's presidential campaign is she said the reason she loved Gen Z is because we are impatient for change. And I think that really rings true with Gen Z and millennials. We are deeply affected by some of the policy decisions that have been made by the older generation that are now affecting us. There is no reason why at 24 years old I should be living in a world where I have less rights than my mother and grandmother did over my own bodily autonomy. And unfortunately, that choice was not made for me. And that was not a discussion that Gen Z got to be a part of, but we understand acutely how these policy decisions and the implementation of these policy decisions are affecting us because we have to live with them, and we don't have a seat at that table. And I think right now we are seeing people are fighting for it. Gen Z made up almost 25% of the voting bloc in this last presidential election in the United States, and we want our voices to be heard because we know that these decisions will affect us and the future families that we decide to have. And so it's important for us to have a seat at the table.
Wow, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we all could relate to what you said, to different extent perhaps, but we all have been through similar things. And so this was kind of the perspective coming from the US, even though it's very universal. But still, I want to come from this and shift our gaze a little bit geographically towards India, and Gurpriya here, who has an extensive experience with taking real action, of bringing leadership closer to young women and making it more accessible. So could you please talk to us a little bit about what's up with India in youth leadership? What does accessibility mean there? What can we do to build it up? And about your work a little bit as well.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Really, really honored to be here. When I was thinking of being on this panel, I was really thinking of how in the last 10 years, every single day I've advocated for young people in India across geography. So I'm really representing all of their voices here, those who couldn't stand up to tell their stories, those who are really fighting the system every single day. So I think I'll begin with how young people and Gen Zs are not a monolith. We need to start finding differences between us so that we can actually hold each of us to account, really recognize that what are the differences and therefore what is our common goal. So when we talk about, what are the differences between us, and in my work, I've been using this tool called Privilege Walk. Has anyone here used that tool? So basically, it's a very simple game that has 20 questions where you stand in a queue, in a line, and you mark yourself on +1 and -1. So that really tells you what's your starting point. So what's your caste? Are you a single woman? Do you belong to the queer community? Which community in India do you come from? Do you struggle to get one meal on the table? And that really defines how every young person has a very different starting point, and therefore their leadership and their leadership style will look very different. And from that, I want to give an example on, how leadership looks different. So in a feminist and, in gender workshops, we talk about menstrual health, and I think we all here believe how important access to sanitary pads is. And after a few workshops got over, one of the leaders walked up to me and said, she said, in all our workshops, having access to sanitary pads is really important. But if you come to my home and you see my economic situation, you will not think that buying a sanitary pad is important. So for her to say this also talks about intersections of economy and aspirations to every single thing that we talk about. We can't talk about issues in isolation to where our country's realities sit today. And that takes me to the other point, which is where are young people today in India, which is a situation where economies are not doing great, which is, I was reading this article which said young people who are graduated and are pursuing professorship have actually gotten into gig work. So if that's the reality that we are in, if we really want youth leadership to flourish, we do need to open up flexible and trust-based models of funding so that they can show up in spaces like these. And I think I'll hand it back to you, but there was another model of youth leadership that I think about, and I think both the models are present here today. One is that we see young people organize and then hold folks to power accountable or engage with power. The other is young people who have the power and can actually organize. So these are two spaces that we see young people at, which is young women tend to be on the side of organizing and then moving to power, but we see a lot of folks who have power and then start to sort of organize within the community. So these are sort of different methodologies of youth leadership and participation that we are seeing in India.
Yeah, that's very interesting what you said, and I just wonder, and we will have to keep it a little bit until the end, but like, does it mean, coming from what you said, that one of the key things to truly charge forward with leadership and youth leadership is acknowledging our differences and like where we stand? Yeah, that's a powerful message.
And just to add another thing, I've been thinking that we use the word inclusion a lot. I think we need to go away from inclusion to centering, which is, I think, the forward that I see, which is inclusion to center.
Oh my God, I wish we had more time because this is just amazing. But like, with all of that, we can't just ignore another aspect that we, as the new-ish generation, are supposed to live with and in the following years, the development of technology, and specifically AI. Yesterday we had a brilliant panel that I think left most of us hopeful about the future with AI and how it's going to look. And yet a lot of people are still fearing it, first and foremost because they feel threatened in their job securities, and women are one of the most affected groups in that process. So I want to talk to you, Janna, about that. You are doing an amazing work, like acknowledging this new reality and bringing it into our ally instead of an adversary. So what do you do? How do you think we can turn AI into our ally? And what new skills do we need as young leaders in this new era?
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for, first of all, Reykjavik Global Forum for giving the next generation leader this space and the space for this conversation. So it's an honor to be here. I want to quote actually Mary Robinson before we go, because I think that's a perfect mindset setter for this conversation. She said yesterday, or maybe we can call her Mary in Iceland. She said yesterday that you are never too young to lead and you're never too old to learn. And I think that was just brilliant, and that resonated with me a lot. I'm a co-founder and CEO of an AI learning platform, Mia AI, with a mission to empower 1 million women with AI skills by 2030. And we have really witnessed what learning and leading with AI can lead to, leading to new jobs for our alumni, internal promotions, cross-collaboration, career growth, and so much more. So if we do this right, AI can present an opportunity for women's economic empowerment, and especially for the next generation empowerment as well. The future of work is changing radically. According to LinkedIn Future of Work report, 65% of the skills required for jobs that will exist in 2030 will be changing. World Economic Forum predicts that 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. So the future of work is changing so radically that this presents actually an opportunity, because I would say that we're all on the same line here. And at the same time, what employers are looking for the most at the moment is a skill set and mindset for continuous learning, because the information is so fast nowadays. What you need to do is continuously adapt these new skills, mindset, and technologies out there. So I would argue that the next generation leaders, we are quite well positioned here in this scenario and situation, because we do have a hunger and open mindset already for learning, and we have so much more to learn than to unlearn. So we are in a great position here. The biggest question we always get as an AI Academy is whether AI will take over my job, and knowing that obviously the jobs that are at the most risk that AI will take over are currently held by women, which is administration roles, sales roles, marketing roles, and so on. But my answer is no. AI will not take over your job, but a person using AI will have incredible career opportunities. So the winning combination of the future will be human plus AI, and the best career opportunities are for those who can harness AI's potential. What do I mean with human plus AI? Obviously, we should learn how to use AI in our everyday life and workflow. We can become so much more efficient. Let's all learn how to prompt and use these incredible AI tools. But at the same time, we as women are quite well positioned here in this scenario as well, because there are some skills that AI cannot take over, and components that AI cannot take over, which are the human skills. And these are leadership, leading with empathy, trust building, contextual design, putting things in and places and complex situation in context rather than predicting just on something based on data. So, and I would also argue that we women are quite well in leadership, leading with empathy, building trust, building relationships, and having those skills that AI cannot take over. So the real opportunity lies there.
Wow. Yeah, let's give this a round of applause because I think that once again we are left hopeful with AI. And I know that one of your, or like the mission of your organization is to educate, give these skills to 1 million women worldwide. And I encourage all of you to spread the word within your communities, make them, help them achieve this, because this is important. This is gonna change a lot of lives across the globe, because you work internationally, right?
Yeah, we are in 65 different countries and we're growing, so I always say together we can. Yes.
Yay, that's amazing. Okay, thank you for that. And we are already a little bit running out of time, and I would like to, but we still have enough for this. I would like to ask all of you, what do you think are the top 3 things that we need now in the young leadership to truly charge forward? And for you, what does that forward mean? Where is it? Where are we charging? Who would like to start? Maybe Yanla?
Yeah. I think what we need is more empathy for how these policy implementations are affecting real life people. I think we see sometimes people are in decision-making places and they're not really thinking about how the policies that they're advocating for have real life effects on people. I think we need more transparency. A lot of people don't feel like their government is honest about the things that are happening behind the scenes and why things are happening the way that they are. And I think we need more spirits of collaboration. We need to, and I think you said before in terms of inclusivity, we need more collaboration across marginalized communities. We need the input of everyone to truly make the government work for the people. That is why it is public service. We are serving the public, and what good is that if we are not asking the opinions of the people who will be affected by these policy implementations, how these decisions will affect them and how these will impact their everyday lives. And to your point of what does forward look like, I think because of being at this forum, I think last Wednesday I was feeling a little hopeless and I was a little down. I had the pleasure of being on the campaign, being on Vice President Harris's presidential campaign, and I took a step back because I felt sad. And I think being here amongst all of these amazing women in this room, I am stepping away with a little bit more joy and more hope for what is to come and what the future looks like, because I think we have some amazing minds that have some amazing ideas, and I don't believe that this is a regression for women. I think we are just getting started.
Thank you. So empathy, transparency, and community. Amazing. Yes, I couldn't agree more with you. And yeah, good. I mean, good job. You are my star. Yeah, let's move on to Gurpriya. What do you think? Can you relate to any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just to add a few more points to that, one is that I've spoken about, which is opening up trust-based funding for young women who can apply for grants, who can apply in languages that are accessible and not just limited to a certain language to be able to fill up applications. The second would be really seeing where young people are at today, because they're really mobilized in their hyper identity. So meeting young people where they are at in language and in lexicon that they can relate with will be really critical. And I think lastly, I would say is just more solidarity among young people is something that we should see going forward. And I just want to leave everyone with sort of one thought, which is, and this is what girls in Jharkhand used to say in a workshop, which was, to become public is to be seen and heard and no longer hide. So this is something that stays, which is just being present is also being seen and heard. So, yeah.
Yes, thank you. And let's take this message with all of us back home when we leave Reykjavik. Thank you so much. And Janna, what about you?
I can actually go back to the beginning, to the imposter syndrome. Like whenever young leaders, we are feeling like we don't belong to the conversation or we cannot bring anything, that is when we need to step in, lean in and go into the conversation. And the only thing we have to do is bring ourselves, our authentic values, our real selves, be real, because that is exactly the fresh perspective that the world needs. So just be yourself and trust yourself.
Oh, I love this. This counts, this is one thing, but it counts for 3. It's a big one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we are right out of time. Thank you again for being here and for talking to me about this, to this whole room of very inspiring leaders. And yes, thank you, the forum, for having us here with this important topic. Yay, let's give us a round of applause.